Well, this is the entrepreneur panel, calling it the digital revolution. So, this panel of serial entrepreneurs has successful digital businesses, and you'll learn from these business masters and walk away with confidence and knowledge to execute your goals and take your business to the next level. We've got our speakers, Lance Ding. He is the founder of Startup Village, a membership community that unites 150 founders and creators in Los Angeles. As the founder and leader, he meticulously curates an environment where entrepreneurs can flourish through co-working, mentorship, and resource sharing. Beyond building connections, Lance is actively advancing the entrepreneurial ecosystem by enabling angel funds and spearheading educational initiatives aimed at empowering college students to launch their own startups. His journey into community building was preceded by a diverse background in consulting and co-founding various venture-backed companies across the fintech, education, and venture capital sectors. And then we've got Braxton Kilgo. He's an athlete, speaker, founder, sales trainer, and philanthropist. He's served over 1,000 clients around the globe. He's managed world-class artists, athletes, and celebrities, done over 4 million in high-ticket sales, and has a PhD in relationship building. Braxton is a serial entrepreneur who limitlessly scales entrepreneurs and their brands. He is an impact visionary driven by instilling beliefs in others. He owns multiple companies in the marketing, production, CPG tech, and business consulting space. The flagship of these is his company, I Believe in You, also known as IBIY, which was born during a middle school speech Braxton delivered when he was only 19 years old. The company is based around spreading kindness across the planet. He's an entrepreneur with a passion and desire to see others succeed. And Braxton always says the coolest thing about him is the people that he knows. So hopefully, if you're here today, we can add your name to that list. Yay. Thank you so much, Lance and Braxton, for being here today. You guys are awesome. So excited to get this chat going. And for Meenakshi, I know you're here. Yesterday, we did more panel styles. We had our keynote, but Braxton and Lance wanted to do it a little bit more differently for this one. So it's a little more interactive. So, feel free to drop any questions that you have about digital entrepreneurship, running a business, and Braxton and Lance will help answer those. But to get started, we'll probably just have a conversation, and that way you'll feel comfortable and you can, just add to the conversation however you wish. So maybe we can just get started with, personal journeys of what brought you guys to starting your company. I think right now the digital entrepreneur space is super popular because then you have that location freedom. You can do it from anywhere in the world. So yeah, was there anything that kind of sparked your passion or want for going into that digital entrepreneur space?
You want to go first, Lance?
Yeah. So I began my journey about 5 years ago. I started pretty early, so I'm only 23 now, but I was 19 when I had my first company. And I think with most people's first time running a company, it didn't really work out. You do a lot of things that and spend a lot of energy on things that have no outcomes and no results. So I started, it was an ed tech company. That was basically a tutor marketplace during COVID, which actually like was reasonably successful because our we had college tutors who were willing to drive to parents' houses for in-person tutoring when everything was online. And this was in Orange County when a lot of the parents were not as vigilant as in other areas. So you can have your opinions about that, but that's why it actually ended up working for about a year. It ended up not working after COVID died. And then after that, I had a lot of stints, which is a variety of other ventures and other companies. I had a stint with an agency that worked with some really cool brands. Um, but I think I kind of like after reflecting on my values and when I'm personally interested, that's when I discovered community as like an outlet to really create a lot of impact and do a lot of cool things. And I think something I've been working on for the last like year and a half, and it's been like super rewarding. Had a lot of cool successes, brought a lot of cool people together, hosted retreats, done a ton of events, helped a lot of other communities run their ops, and hopefully going to build and inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs with what I'm doing. So that's where I'm at now.
Love it. How about you, Braxton?
Yeah, so the question is just what got me into the digital space?
Yeah, digital
Yeah.
entrepreneurship.
Well, I mean, you know, so I'm 29, so it's a little bit further back, for me than when it was for Lance. But I grew up working on a farm, building fences, building houses, and doing things like that. And I just always wanted something more. Don't get me wrong, I love working with my hands, and it's honestly one of my favorite things to do now, especially now that pretty much everything is me either walking around with headphones in or doing calls like this. Um, but it was just the opportunity, right? And for me, it almost kind of happened by accident. I didn't really care about anything except for sports. Sports was really like my way out of the farm and the oil rigs and not kind of survive those sports. But then when I got injured, that whole story I won't get into now, but I had to find my new path, new identity. And I ended up starting a fashion company, like a clothing company, but it was all purpose driven. And you know, I was the friend in the friend group too. Like when I was in high school, we had Instagram, Snapchat, everything else. Like I didn't even have profiles. I was like, yeah, I don't even want to be on my phone. I was like that guy. I was like, I don't need my phone. I don't like being on my phone. I like being present. Like that was everything. But then when I started seeing these other brands that were growing, and like I did follow a few people on social media when I finally got one, which was I didn't have any of that until like 18, 19. So like as I was getting out of high school. And anyway, I started watching and understanding like, wow, okay, the life they get to live. And it feels like all they do is post on social media. Well, when I started my clothing company, when it really sparked for me and I understood for the first time, I had this girl that lived about maybe 2 hours away from me. I had met her, and like this was back when if somebody had like 10,000 followers on something, like that was huge. Now people, it's so crazy. Like just the other day, I was talking to something like, well, this influencer, they want to work with us, and they're asking for X now. They only have like 37,000 followers. And I'm like, it's so crazy the way the landscape has changed that that's not as impressive as it used to be. But anyway, this girl had like 10,000 followers. And I was like, hey, look, if you'll post about, my company like once, twice a month on your social media, I'm having new drops like every month. I'll just send a package of everything that we have. She had a boyfriend down too. So I was like, you and your boyfriend, I'll deck both of you out with everything I have every month if you just post like twice. And I dropped some hoodies at the time. And I've been running the business for a while and it was going pretty good. We dropped the hoodies. She was late and she wasn't able to post yet. And she was texting us like, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm almost on my way home. I just got to like take a few pictures and then I'll make a post a little bit. And no worries. We're selling hoodies. Like it's awesome. And, orders were coming in. She made her post and I'd never heard the little cha-ching sound on my computer go faster than it did right after she posted and everybody was using her code. And she sold out all of our hoodies in like 15, 20 minutes. And just for me, that was the light bulb moment. I was like, I need 100 hers and I'm rich. That's all I need. So for me, that's when I realized like the power of the social media and like how fast that can happen and what it looks like. And so since then, everything I've done has been online, whether it's communities, brands, consulting, whatever. And the freedom obviously is pretty awesome being able to be wherever you're at with a laptop.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. We really are growing up in such an interesting space where it's the rise of social media, the rise of digital technology. And like you said, it's like, okay, just a few years ago, it was 10,000 was a lot. And now we think, oh, it's not. But actually, we're also still in the infancy of all of this because
Yeah.
in 100 years, social media is still going to be relevant. Digital entrepreneurship will be evolved. But yeah, sometimes I think people feel like, oh, it's too late for me to get into it or it's too saturated. But it's like, no, we're still at the like baby stages. You can totally get into digital entrepreneurship, take advantage of that if you know how. But it's tricky because as it continues to grow, now it's more the algorithms, there's more details. I feel like there's so much more you guys need to know. So I guess one other question. Well, once I see a couple other people jumped in. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Roger. Thanks for joining again today. Just so you guys know, we're doing a little bit of a different style where we want this to be a little more open. So we want it to be more like a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions you want to ask about digital entrepreneurship, starting a company, anything, just keep dropping it in the chat throughout and we'll stop and answer them. Oh, awesome. We already got one. All right. So Meenakshi is asking, as a freelance bookkeeper, I'm exploring effective strategies to connect with new businesses. What are the best techniques for generating leads and starting conversations with potential clients professionally? That's a good question. There's
Once I
many.
that if you want to go into it, you can.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead. Yeah.
I'm gonna do a brief explanation on stuff that's pretty generic because I think not everyone knows it, and then I'll dive into like what's worked for me and what I've seen other people do. So like you do business with people you have real relationships with. So it's like how can you optimize the rate at which you build new relationships? So this comes from like getting interest with people, making friends with people who have businesses. I don't know, getting coffee chats with people, joining online communities with like other bookkeepers who can help you out. And that's like a really good way because then you get referrals and then people want to do business with you because like they trust you. It's all about trust like that. And like bookkeeping is something that's like fundamentally almost every business needs. So like if I would also look at like, oh, are there any communities or people who have like earlier companies or like companies that need to get like their bookkeeping off the ground. I'll kind of look at that as well. I maybe if you're one thing to maybe be thoughtful about is like maybe trying to explore like businesses or verticals that have like undiscovered needs in that area. Like I know one area that's just like really niche is for physicians who have their own private practices actually in bookkeeping. So that's just my dad's a doctor. I know they do a lot of that and always are looking on the lookout for that. So if you find a way to do that. So that's like the generic answer. So like I've seen a lot of times that could be pretty slow because like oh like when are you going to meet somebody that's going to give you an intro like oh like is like you can't like bank on that repeatedly so it's really like I think it's always good to have like basically a mechanism for you to constantly drive inbound or have effective outbound. So I there's various tools that you can use to find like emails and you can basically send like 100 200 emails out and then from that like measure like your inbound or basically rates of meetings and there's like a lot of like good books on that I think yeah so that's an idea you can do it's like oh how do you get a ton of emails that are authentic and genuine how do you like do outbound effectively and I would like kind of explore that I personally haven't done it but a lot of those resources are readily available on the internet and they're things that I would look at if you're going to do effective outbound doing inbound for bookkeeping like trying to drive marketing like it's pretty hard, but I think the best way to do that would probably be to create content around your personal brand. If you have like a personality that maybe resonates and then doing that. But that also is like the kind of networking, community building, developing relationships can be like kind of unpredictable. But like there are a few things you can do to optimize that, like making sure that you have good lighting on the effect, like in the beginning of like your shorts if you're going to do Instagram ads, or making sure that like you have like a good story behind yourself then those could all like increase your odds of like having good content. Another thing you can do if you're interested in content is like looking at like all like Instagram reels in your niche or TikToks in your niche, and then finding like all the effective hooks and then just like copying those hooks as like ways. And then you can use that maybe to like drive inbound. And then I guess another generic thing is just like figuring out ways to differentiate yourself. Like, oh, what about you makes you different from other people? Like, is it like it doesn't need to be super complicated? It could just be like like the clients you worked with or like the the timeliness of the service you provide. Maybe it's like something that's different. Being able to explain that's really good. So that's kind of brained up, but that's kind of all the ideas off the top of my head. I can like refine it more though. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, my answer for that, honestly, first off, Lance, I think one thing that you covered is, people buy from people. It's like people purchase from people that they know, like, and trust. So having a personal brand, putting out content, things like that, obviously is good. And it's something like if you're starting out, it doesn't hurt if you do have a niche, right? Versus just like saying I do bookkeeping, saying, for example, like I help agency owners do XYZ by my something bookkeeping method, right? Almost like you have a very, like, offers are really, really powerful. But before you even get to the offer, really, and we can dive deeper on offers later because I'm a kind of a nerd about offers and how you package things. But in the short answer to this is like techniques to actually generate the leads. As Lance said, it's about people trusting you and how do you separate from all the other thousands of people reaching out to them. We live in a world now where marketers ruin everything, right? Every platform. If they don't put certain restrictions in place, we'll hit up every single person in the world with before they start putting restrictions on it. So, one thing that I think to do is like obviously in person, shaking people's hands, being in networks, being in communities, like meeting people and getting referrals. Even still in this day, my business that I use, one of my businesses, my agency, we do outbound, we have all kinds of stuff going on. Every single week I get put in 20 to 30 different group chats with people saying, hey, this is my friend who has this company. Friend, this is Braxton. This is what they do. They're the best. That's the best way in the world to get business because they're already pretty much pre-sold. You just now have to make sure that it actually serves them and they can afford it. All right. And the big thing I talk about in sales also, like if you are connecting with these people, and I'm going to get tactical in a minute, I promise, is one of the things that I always talk about is like serving, not selling. So when you get on these conversations, when you're talking to these people, like you don't need to immediately like elevator pitch them, like try to get this deal. Like really just figuring out who they are, what they have going on, what they've tried, where they're trying to go. And even if it's not you, try to find a way on that call to serve them, whether it's giving them something free, advice, connecting them to somebody else. I can't tell you how many clients we have that were referred to us by people who didn't even actually become a client of ours because we connected them to somebody else or gave them something, whatever. So a big framework is just really being there to serve people, not just sell them. Now, if what they need is, if what you have to sell is going to serve them, then that's perfect, right? They become a client. But to get more like tactical on the approach, the best place in the world as far as targeting on social media is LinkedIn. You can figure out, from Facebook, Instagram, everything else, it's like, what's your gender? What's your birthday? What's your email? Profile created. LinkedIn, it's like upload your passport, your DNA, all your job history, who are your parents, where do you live now, where have you lived in the past, what are your skills, what achievements do you have? Like, so the targeting is way more specific there. And I think depending on where you're at in your business, like this is something that my team still does to this day. Even if you just go on and find 25 people, 50 people, 100 people that like you really could serve them, go to their profile, look at the last few posts they have, look at their information that's on there, look at their website, and like send them a personal video saying their name or send them a voice memo saying, hey, Luke, I saw you were doing this. I do this. I wanted to reach out and connect. Man, I would love to see if there's any ways we could collaborate and just like be a real person. And even in doing that too, it doesn't have to be like you can cough, sneeze, close the door, bump into something on your desk. And like just being a real person is going to separate you so much more than you think. And then hearing your voice and putting a voice to the name. We do it all the time. We do it live on calls. You can send out 300 cold emails, in a day, and I can go send 25 personal voice memos in a day and book 16 of them, and we might only get 10 from the emails. Now, cold email works, right? Everything is like a supplemental value add when it comes to marketing. But I think in the short and simple way in the beginning, I do this for like my B2B stuff. I do this in transactions that are in the millions. 10,000s, and then even my bracelets that are $20. Find them on Instagram, LinkedIn, sending a personal message, voice memo, being real intent to actually connect with the person. That's made me more money than anything else ever has.
Love it. Voice memos a really good tip. It's kind of a new thing and adding videos. Yeah, both of you guys adding a lot of value there. And I saw Angela and Ahra, you guys both hopped on again today. Thanks for being here. Just to loop you guys in, we're doing this panel a little different, so you can drop any questions you want throughout the chat and we'll be answering them. So yeah, thanks guys. That was amazing. Just to add to that, would be, marketing at the end of the day, it's about getting into the brain of the person you're trying to sell to. And people buy on emotion. So you want to evoke that emotion and you want to get to the client at that point when they're ready to buy. So 50% of there's basically tactical marketing, which is you targeting people who are ready to buy now, but only 1 to 3% of people are ready to buy now. Whereas 97 to 99%, they need to go on the buyer's journey. So they're going to first be looking at products. They're going to start comparing you. They're going to wonder, okay, which service provider should I go with? So you want to be still at the top of their mind at every point of that buyer's journey, so that when they get to the point, whether it's 6 months later, 1 year later, they're like, okay, I'm ready, that you're going to be the one that they choose. So just some no-cost strategies are, say, like thinking of your headline, thinking of your sub-headline, like what's the problem you're trying to solve for someone? Get into the emotion of, hey, are you struggling with your finances? XXX. And like Lance and Braxton suggested, choose maybe a niche, because bookkeeping goes with any business, but maybe target small businesses that are brick and mortar, or have some kind of specialty that makes you stand out. And another one, which they both mentioned that's really good, is partnerships. So that's definitely changed the game for me with my business too. Braxton actually is one of our agency partners. And so that's huge. I think, just like they said, people helping people. And one way you can structure your partnerships is that you can take like a spreadsheet, put yourself in the middle, and then you put above you, like what are companies that are going to effectively refer to me? And then underneath are what are the business that can be referred the other way around. So you start to see like a partnership funnel, and you are able to, get even like referral fees or that on this side as well. So
Yeah,
just want to add that in. So yeah, you guys keep dropping questions in if you want. Otherwise, we'll probably just keep chatting. But you guys both mentioned social media, personal branding. How important do you think that is to get on right now? Because at the end of the day, it takes a lot of time. So I know, like, to kind of run your social media efficiently, you need about at least 3 hours a day, most likely, to be in there posting, creating the content, interacting with the community. Do you guys have any suggestions around how to build your personal brand effectively and use that as a lead generation tool?
I think now is probably better than it ever will be in the future to create content, just because the opportunity for you to go viral and get a large audience off organic is still very, very large. I just think the number of content creators, or like the saturation of content creators, is not quite where it will be in the future. It's going to a lot of people making more content, and then attention is going to be a lot more expensive. So I encourage people to do it. I would like think pretty, for me, like I'm more vigilant about what type of content I make, because I have an existing personal brand. I want to make sure that the quality of the content that I make aligns with that. So for me, I'm more vigilant. Like, I'm not sure. I get nervous about, like, oh, just people like posting something random, putting a tagline that might be kind of catchy, and then also like, slapping on Instagram. So I'm very cognizant of that. One thing that I would be vigilant about looking about is not like number of views, but like how many people actually follow you, because really you're on Instagram to like grow an audience. So I see a lot of friends who post like, one reel, it gets like 1 million views, but it really doesn't drive a lot of follows. So I would like look at that as like something to kind of do with respect to content. all that stuff. So yeah, I would make content. I think one way you can kind of streamline it is like usually a bulk of the time is in the editing. So if you find a consistent format for your videos to exist, it's pretty easy to outsource and hire that pretty inexpensively. And that's something that you can consider. But like you would have to like find what those pieces of content are, and that goes back to like I think my previous point. Like I would study content and then see what works and then giving it a go. So like I guess going back to Sophia's point, is it worth putting in 3 hours a day? I would say like for anybody running a business, like it's definitely worth considering just because it's super, super high leverage. And then maybe like do it for a month or something like that, and then learn from it, talk to other people, and then after a month or so, maybe like figure out if this is something that you want to continue doing, you like doing all that other stuff. So that's like I guess my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the day, personal brand is powerful. I haven't been focused on mine as much over the past couple of years, just from the way that my schedule has been and everything that I've been doing. But every single time that I do, it works. And I'll step back into it. I won't go into the reasons why, but personal brand is powerful. Whenever I was doing my apparel brand in the very beginning, like I would always tell people, I'm like, I could sell an ugly shirt and it'll sell out right now. But it's because it was more than a product, right? We were adding value, and we created something that people just wanted to be a part of. They wanted to support it, everything like that. So your personal brand is really powerful, and I'll tell some more stories about that in a second. But back whenever I as we mentioned in the beginning, I used to be a serious athlete. I still do certain things, but what I would tell people back whenever, especially like when I was in college, everybody was always asking me like tips and things about the gym, right? And it's like, there's a billion diets, there's a billion workout forms, there's all these different things, there's all these tactics, techniques, and measuring, and certain shoes and clothes. And I would just tell people, I'm like, go in there, go as hard as you can on whatever it is until you're sweaty and miserable, and leave. And if you're hungry, just eat something good. That's it. That's it. Just go get it done. Like you're going to start to learn about your body, and you're going to learn about more things as you go. But you get too much decision fatigue if you're trying to weigh your food and count every rep and drop set and do all these different things. So I think there are tactics to it, but depending on where you're at, just go do it. Put it out. Like you don't even have to worry as much about views or followers or anything. Just put it out, bring value to people, tell your story, let people come along. And another thing is being the same person that you are on the internet in person. So many of my followers and different things have came from my own like personal networking and real life. And most of my followers came from people sharing me on their stories, but it's because I was a real person in real life, right? So I think keep it simple in the beginning and just put stuff out, tell your story, share the value of where you are too. There's so many coaches coaching coaches that have never done anything. So don't try to be something that you're not. Share the value that you actually have and just put it out, be raw, be real, be a student, be moldable, shapeable, just be a real person, and people are going to get behind that. People buy from people. So personal brand is really important. I'll keep it simple in the beginning. I'll tell you some examples of the things. Like I said, I used to always joke that I could sell an ugly shirt. I didn't sell any ugly shirts because it's not my style, But we've been able to grow and scale almost all of my businesses, especially in the beginning, because of my personal brand. And one example of that is we had something for one of my startups that we had an opportunity that was going to cost us like $500,000. Really amazing opportunity for us to get into. I didn't have $500,000 sitting in my pocket or my business bank account to be in this, and we didn't want to miss the boat. We had like 14 days to basically either be in this opportunity, to be on the headlines of everything that was going on. And all I did was share one Instagram story on Instagram, no other platforms, and we raised $500K from our audience in 12 days. Personal brand really matters. And again, it's people also knowing, liking, and trusting you because you've been real and you've been authentic. So personal brand's really important. It's also a long game. That's why I say keep it simple. Because you make it too complicated, you're going to quit after 30 days or 60 or 90. Like this might be a 10-year play, but it's worth it. Just put the time and keep doing it. And, as Lance talked about as well, like you don't know, on day 115, you might not have hardly seen anything. you think maybe this isn't worth it. Then you have one video that goes freaking wild, crazy, and you're an overnight success. But you've been putting the time in and the value in, just giving, giving, giving for so long. So there's all kinds of different ways to do it. I would just say just be authentic, be real, be the same person in person as you are online. Meet people in person. Like, that's just as valuable. But now you can connect with people on Zoom. When I connect with people, whether it's a lead, referral, for whatever it is in my world, I always just ask them whether we're going to set another call to do something or close a deal, whatever. I'm like, how can I help you right now? You know, like, is there somebody you need to meet? Is there a business you need a connection with? Is there a problem you're trying to solve? Like, how can I help you like right now? They're going to tell me, and you'd be surprised how often I either have an answer or have an immediate connection, can put them in a group chat, or 3 calls later in my freaking 12-hour blocks of calls, I'm talking to this person and they're like looking for something else. I'm like, oh my God, I have to connect you to this person. So I think just always adding value, know that personal brand's a long-term play, be real, be authentic, don't look at the numbers so much, don't worry about the techniques so much. Just do it. Just get it out, give value, be omnipresent, put it everywhere, and just try to give as much as you can.
Yeah, love that. We did get a couple questions. How important is content for entrepreneurship? Which we were kind of touching base on. So yeah, very important. I agree with what you guys said. I think personal branding is really crucial right now. And I always say it's the one thing that's going to follow you throughout your life. So instead of even focusing on company branding, like your startup might fail or you might change industries, but the one thing that's going to follow you through all that is personal branding. So I think it's way smarter to be investing in that. And then in terms of what I would recommend for content, a lot like they were both saying is, be authentic. So one, show your personality, but also be smart about, okay, how do I also promote the business? But you don't want to oversaturate your content that way if it's a personal brand, but do it strategically here and there. So one, they're buying into who you are first. And then two, it's like, oh, okay, now I also offer this service. So that's kind of my recommendation. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think going back to your point, you don't necessarily, your outcome for like maybe content doesn't necessarily need to be like, oh, I need to get $1 million views on a video. Like it could be just like, hey, I want to have a really awesome profile. So when someone views my Instagram or someone views my LinkedIn, they're gonna want to engage and follow with me. And then those are like the people you can do. So like I'm meticulous about that. Like on my LinkedIn and my Instagram, I'm not really optimizing for like, oh, what's gonna go viral, but more so like when someone clicks on my Instagram or when someone clicks on my LinkedIn, are they gonna be like, yeah, this is someone I trust and like I could probably engage with them now and I want to follow and check them out, or like maybe like what Sophia said, like 6 months later down the line, something like do that. So that's something I would look at. Of course, like having millions of views gives you a lot of social proof, but I'm generally like if you find you can make content that resonates with your audience, even if it doesn't grow viral, like people will still connect with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big believer in giving gives back as well. Like making the content, like hoping that something goes viral. I think just the perspective, like the lens that you're looking out of is just like, let's say you only have 100 followers and you kind of know who those people are or what the industry is, whatever, or maybe it's all random. It's like, take it from the lens of like, how could I, with the knowledge, the expertise, experience, whatever that I have, like, how can I give the people that do follow me the most value possible? Because then when you do that, for one, they're more likely to go share it, to send it to somebody else and do things like that. But then also, maybe if they're not ready to buy now or whatever it may be, you're building so much trust because you've already given so much value to that person that when the time is right, you're the person they call. But then in every conversation I have in real life, online, Zoom, whatever, someone says, dude, my bookkeeping has been terrible. Or dude, I've been doing this for so long, I've never met a bookkeeper. It's a mess for the last 3 years. It's crazy. They're gonna be like, dude, I know somebody. And they're gonna connect you because you've given them so much value and they know that there's somebody they know that they can trust to hand off to this other person that they trust. So just being consistent, just try to give as much as possible, and that's gonna come back.
Yeah, I love that. The law of reciprocity. I completely agree. And it's so relevant to social media, like you said. So I found that probably the most effective is not just posting content, but engaging in the community. So after you post, then go and comment on other creators and leave value there. And not just because of the law of reciprocity, but also because of the algorithms. So people forget that the social media platforms are machines. So they're always watching you. And they actually favor people who are doing more activities within that platform. So then they start to rank those people higher. So I guess the machines like the law of reciprocity too. So just keep that in mind. And whenever they push new features out, you also want to be engaging and using the new features because the machine will also recognize that. Awesome. Awesome. Let's see. Were there any other questions? Not yet. Okay. So I'm curious for you guys. I think for me, at least, starting a digital business, it's a little hard in the beginning because you don't really know where to go. You have to connect with people all around the world. It's not like a physical business. You can go like hand out flyers in the community. So I found the initial stage the hardest, but then like you guys are saying, once you build your network and you're slowly putting yourself out there, then it's gonna come. But yeah, what was your experience in the beginning and how did you kind of push through that stage where maybe you're not getting a lot of results initially? And I find that hard because you're like, oh, they're trying all these digital techniques that you learn and you think you're supposed to just start getting results, but it can take a while to build up.
Yeah, so like I had actually pretty quick success right off the bat, just because like I'm pretty sure anybody who has some reasonable amount of working professional career probably knows like you have a network of networks that can provide referrals. So like writing a good email to a former colleague being like, hey, my name is Lance. Like my pitch for my community was like when I first started, my name is Lance. I want to create a community where founders can work together like a team. We're gonna meet like twice a week. These are the founders that are part of it, so there's social proof. And like, I want to offer the first month free, which I actually wouldn't do. That's something I can explain why later I wouldn't do it, but like first month free. And I'd love to invite like you or anyone to be a part of this journey. This is like kind of like my vision, what my mission statement. And then they'll be like, oh, that's really cool. And it's like, if not, like, and then I think everyone replied to that just because like I think for at least within my niche of entrepreneurs, like everyone felt like, working alone was something that was so not something desirable, but every founder was fundamentally lonely and wanted to have friends and have community. And then also because I was like reaching out to like people that I had a relationship. I didn't have a large network, but like I've been doing startups for like, I don't know, at that time, like 3 years. So like I had a few friends, so I could reach out to like 20 of them. I don't think that's like that hard. I think anyone with a reasonable amount of working professional career has that. Um, I think that was just honestly the same thing when I was running like an agency and was doing contracting. I would just like reach out to like friends and be like, hey, like I have these skills. Here's my portfolio. This is who I worked with. This is the value I can provide. And like I saw that you have XYZ problem. I'd love to like, is there an opportunity for me to do this? Like I'm starting early, so like we can, structure something that totally works with them, whatever. Like, and then, just being mindful of your time and doing something like that. So that would be like to get off the ground, like I would just really lay hard into your existing personal network. And even if like there isn't immediate business opportunities, I would think deeply about like they may know, or like even just asking for advice is helpful. So that's how I got off the ground on like both my two last like businesses and my current one. And yeah, that's what I would do. Just write a really strong personalized email and like follow up with people. If they don't reply, make it personalized, provide value, like Braxton was saying, and like explain your story, be a human. So that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too, like in the beginning, like even what Sophia was saying, I wouldn't discount the simple things. We live in a world where you can get shiny object syndrome real easy. There's a million tactics. There's a million people when you open your phone, but they're like, if you want to get this and this result in this time and 10, there's 10 million of those people posting right now. And it's a different tactic than the last guy and the last guy and the last guy. Like you got to just get something and do it consistently. Like, don't discount things in the real world either. Like, whether it, like, you know, you're hanging flyers on somebody's door, but like these businesses, like we might all have digital businesses, but I'm still, I mean, I'm in my house today, but like whether it's somebody's office or whatever, like go meet people, shake their hands. Like if you show up to somebody's business, you might be a digital business, they might run their business online. They still probably have some of the problems that you can solve. And now they've got 45 emails and DMs and this, that, and the other. But then there's this one guy or girl that came in and shook their hand and introduced themselves and learned about the person and asked a lot of questions and tried to provide value. And that starts to compound. And those people have friends, and those people will refer people. So I think same as what Lance said, like anybody that you know, even if they're not your exact ideal client, they might know somebody. So don't be afraid to ask. Provide value, be very personal. Maybe walk in person, right? Like just be a little bit more like guerrilla with it and like keep it simple. Try to just add value, find these people. But Lance said something that I think is one of the most powerful things, like in the beginning, like, you know, now my company is we've got our portfolio of work is like you can almost just like throw that on the table and you're like, just let me know it's gonna be this amount if you want to sign up. But it took a long time to get there. In the beginning, when you're trying to prove yourself, it's like you might not have a case study, you might not have a bunch of testimonies, you might not have a big portfolio. Go do something for free. Like just find somebody that has the problem and say, hey, look, I would love to help the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I'm going to do it for you completely for free. Hey, at the end, if you love it, I would love to talk about, you know, what it would cost moving forward. Hey, and if not, as long, you know, unless you hated it, right? And that's, you probably need to fix some things. But, you know, if not, even if you don't sign up, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just, you know, do you have 2 or 3 people you could probably refer me to if I did a good job? They're going to say yes, and they're going to get good work. And maybe you say, hey, at the end of it, all I ask is that maybe as long as you loved it, would you mind filming a, you know, 90 to 120-second video with me? Just tell me about your experience. Because once you have that, like my LinkedIn business for one, people oftentimes when they get onto these discovery calls, they've already watched through 5 or 6 of our case study videos, and they're like, hey, look, to be honest, I don't really have a lot of questions. I saw the results from other people. It was amazing. Like, I'm just curious if you can do it for this angle and how much is it? They're already sold. So at some point when you have those case study videos and you have all this portfolio to stack, those all act as like what we call pre-selling mechanisms. They make your sales cycle a whole lot shorter because the proof is already there. But we don't have that. Go do stuff for free. Go connect to these people. Go just add as much value as you can, and just as long as you do a good job, ask if they do a case study, ask if they refer, and maybe they become a client. That's massive. But I was just saying, like, keep it simple in the beginning. Like, go do good work, serve the people, and as long as you do a good job, they're going to put you in the hands of other people that want your stuff too.
Love that. Such great tips. Completely agree. Sometimes it was even a theme yesterday on our panels where a lot of people, even like the artists, sometimes you just have to start by giving free service to build up your body of work. And even when you're successful or you're doing well, you will probably find yourself continually doing that. Say even with partners. So it's smart to do things like service swaps, because then you can help one another. You can also give each other testimonials. Braxton's company definitely, you guys do really, really good testimonials with those videos.
Yeah.
Their website's Cloud9 Acquisition, so you guys can look that up. So very smart, because yeah, you have to educate, you have to have the reputation. And just like you guys said, asking, it's a statistic I learned recently. So, upselling, cross-selling, and downselling, they actually find that just by asking at the end of your sale, 34% of people are going to say yes to a cross-sell or an upsell or another sell just because you asked, which really blew my mind. So it just shows you just have to ask the question, ask for the referral, and don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah.
And another thing I love that Lance was kind of going out when he was describing the emails is it goes back to the emotion. So he was playing into that emotion. Hey, are you guys lonely as entrepreneurs? So yeah, just being mindful of the way that you're reaching out and how to connect with people. So I love that. Thanks, guys.
One thing to add to that really quick is something I mentioned earlier, but same as what you were saying, something like just asking. I'll tell you, I do this every day on every call. I do a lot of calls. I just always ask what, sometimes it's in the middle of the call, sometimes at the very beginning, most of the time it's at the end. I just ask them what, no matter what business that it's for, even friends, whoever, I'm just like, hey, is there anything, that you're focused on right now, any goals, any problems you're trying to solve? Like, is there anything I can do to help you? Like, can I make a connection for you? Like, is there anything you have going on that I could help? You will be surprised, for one, how many times they have something very specific. And in a sales environment, that helps you know how to sell them. And back to what I was saying earlier, ultimately that helps you know how to serve them because that's what they need is to be served by something. So when you do that, not only is it going to help in the sales process or the fact that you're giving value to somebody, but once you do that, even if it was something so small, like a PDF or just a link to a website you've used before or whatever, it doesn't really even matter the level of how much you helped with that problem. Just the fact that you asked, they always almost feel obligated. I have to tell them, like, it's okay. Like, just let me serve you. You don't need to serve me back, right? They'll be like, well, how can I help you? And then whatever you're working, it's like, hey, well, let's say it was Lance, right? It's like, I have this community. I'm just looking for entrepreneurs that want community, want to grow with other founders. Like, dude, my friend Tommy just started this company and saying the same thing. My cousin has this company. My dad does this. Like, I'm going to send them the link right now. And they were fired up to do that for you because you just asked how you could help them. So that's like one small little thing. Like maybe just try it this week. Ask everybody at the end of your call, like, hey, before we go, like, is there anything that I can do for you? Whatever it is. And it compounds interest and starts to come back for you.
Yeah, I love that. It's all about serving others. So we got another question that came through. Want to know about other platforms to connect with valuable people. That's definitely a great question. And I think earlier, Lance, you mentioned also like platforms to find emails and leads. So maybe we can share like some valuable platforms that we know.
Yeah, I don't have a lot. So I'm gonna say it's like here's some stuff I've used, and you can like take this advice with a grain of caution because it's a little bit of a gray hat area. So I use like Rocket Reach and Hunter.io to like validate and find emails. And one hacky thing I did is that people's emails are actually very predictable because it's usually like their first and last name followed by their email. And there's a bunch of tools. So what you can do is literally go onto LinkedIn and like go to that like if you want to like I don't know connect with Apple product people, head of product, and then you just like comb through all the names and then do like joe@apple.com and it's probably their email. So I actually did that and was very effective at it. Like it wasn't complete, it was a different project. I was just geeking out with friends and I was helping them recruit and I sent like 500 emails for my friends to find jobs. What we did is just like mined all the emails off of LinkedIn, mail merged them together, or like concatenated all their emails, followed by company name, and then mail merged them. So that was pretty hacky. I would say like yeah, take that with a grain of salt because depending on your values may not be something you want to do. But yeah, those are the two tools that I use. There are more expensive enterprise tools. I can't speak into them because I haven't used them before, so I don't want to do that. But those I have seen my friends who do use them have pretty good ROI. But I say you probably don't use them until you've validated your outbound strategy with like a smaller audience because they are like if you can afford maybe the several hundred, several thousand a month, then like they're probably fine just experiment with it. But like yeah, that could be a serious cost. That's probably not worth taking unless you've validated your outbound.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of my companies is very lead generation specific. ZoomInfo is definitely expensive. To be honest, we don't ever use ZoomInfo. We did probably like 3 or 4 years ago. Apollo is a really, really good one, but it's relatively expensive as well. We have a bunch of clients right now that use ListKit. We use ListKit also in one of my other businesses. And I would say this is there very much. I don't know if this is actually directly answering your question because you're talking about other platforms to connect with valuable people. I think if we're talking like lead scraping, like data scraping specifically, I mean, there's some cool things you can do, like just on Google search, like Sales Navigator, things like that. But honestly, when you're scraping thousands of leads and sending out a bunch of emails, like cold emails, things like that, there's a bunch of tools. There's a lot of things that you can do. But depending on the scale of where your business is at, I think being more calculated, more specific, and more personal at the beginning is really the way to go. Like again, we don't have this many now. We used to have like 45, 50 SDRs that were just doing outbound all the time. They were able to send like a couple hundred messages a day with the software that we were using. Software was personalized, which was good, right? And they were getting pretty good results. When we would do some of the training stuff, and at scale, right? When I had those SDRs managing like 5 to 6 profiles at a time, and there's a lot, right? It's more of a numbers game. You can't be as personal. You can't film a video every time, send a voicemail every time. But when you're in the beginning, you can. And so we would have them. They've been working their leads. It's Friday. They've been working their leads since Monday, and set 10, 15 appointments, whatever. Well, on the call, I went and sent like 8 or 9 voice memos to people. And within the hour call, I'd set like 6, 7 appointments because it was very personalized and I outreached to them that way. And so, anyway, on a lead specific side, depending on where the scale of your business is at, I think being more personal, more specific, and taking a little bit more time to dive into like the right people is the move. But as far as platforms to connect with valuable people, there's so many. Personally, for me, LinkedIn is the most powerful. Instagram is probably my favorite, but LinkedIn is the most powerful. And Angela, I saw your question about Alignable. I don't use Alignable. I've been email spammed by them a billion times. I've debated it because I've seen some really good people on there. I'm sure that that's good as well. But I think it's just, again, just keeping it simple. Like pick somewhere and like really know and understand the platform. With anything that we do when we talk to businesses, it's like, okay, where does your ideal client hang out? And different platforms have different answers, and there's different communities like Lance's and stuff like that too, and like finding a place like, where, let's just say for the bookkeeping example, like you might have a better chance joining Lance's community, being a really valuable person there. Maybe you have a template or an Excel sheet or something that would just add value to everybody in that group for free and just be a valuable asset for everybody there. The chance that Lance gives you ever to make an ask or you connect with these people offline, all of those people in that trusted community are going to see people to you. So I think the more intimate the connection that you can have, the better results that you're going to get, especially in the beginning. But honestly, even at scale, that's something we try to focus on so much, is just like not as much just like trying to hit thousands and thousands of people a day with these emails. And it is a numbers game, but the more personal touch that you put, people know that, because in the world of today, I could throw a rock outside right now and hit somebody's house that has another agency like me, right? They're everywhere. So the way to separate yourself from the noise is being a real person and actually being there, as I said earlier, to like serve them, not sell them. That's to come back.
Love that. Yeah, totally agreed. I think LinkedIn is definitely the most powerful platform at the moment, but it is hard to get high value people's attention. So either, joining other groups within LinkedIn can help you target people. I've also found, like Braxton was saying, but finding communities that maybe have other entrepreneurs, they're all very, very helpful, and everyone wants to help each other. So they'll refer you. I think there probably are free ones too, or it's like a low cost membership. I know I got, and even look for meetups in your area. So I started looking for meetups. I live near Vegas, that were aligned to me. And I found one that's like a social group, and it was free. Like you can just go to a coffee shop and meet up. And then, so, then that led to me being introduced to more people, getting invited to more events, and a lot of those people became clients. So I think just finding groups and joining them is a really effective way to find more high value people. And I know we're hitting time, so I know Lance has got to hop off. He's doing a retreat out in Hawaii for his group, which is awesome. So thanks so much, Lance, for being here. I don't know if Braxton, you need to go or if we want to.
I can
Does
stay.
anyone have a last question or anything like that for either of them before they head off?
I can still stay in for like 15 minutes.
Okay, cool. Well, Lance,
This was fun,
appreciate
guys.
you
I'll
being
talk to you
here.
soon.
Yeah,
All right,
have a
see
great
you. Bye-bye.
time.
Yeah, see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. Well, maybe I'd say like maybe we can leave them with what do you think is the most like critical thing for someone to know about building a successful digital business? Like, do you think it's a side of like maybe personal development, even just like the grit to get through it? Or what do you think is a vital thing to know to
Yeah,
succeed in that?
I mean, I think it's so many things. Like also too, don't discount not being behind the screen. Like so much of my success is still people that I meet in person and things that I do in person. But I know it's a little bit different in today's day and age. Like at one point that was the only way, so everybody was doing it, but don't discount that. And I think the other thing too is also I made this comment earlier about like coaches coaching coaches, and that's how they make their money. And like you know, these people that are selling something that they're not actually masters of their craft at. So this sounds obvious, but unfortunately the world is not this way. Like actually becoming a master of your craft, like really actually just being the best or the best that you can, right? And constantly doing that. So I think that part is really important. Um, Angela, you said, what's your most cherished moment thus far in my business journey? It's tough because there's so many beautiful things that have happened and there's so many stories, but um, for me, I'm very big on impact. Impact is really, really important to me. And so, you know, I have businesses that have everything we do, it always comes back to my thing that I keep talking about is like serving, not selling. And just being a good human being. So for me, probably my most cherished moment, and this business is about to do some really amazing things in 2025. But my business, I Believe in You, is all about kindness and giving back, and you know all kinds of things in that realm. It's more philanthropic, and you know the stories that have came back from our bracelets. That you wear them with the intention to give them away to other people. So it's people just handing off these bracelets to other humans around the world. My most cherished moments are from the stories that have came from this little piece of plastic that people have shared with other people, and the stories that have came back from that. Everything from just making somebody's day a little bit brighter, rekindling a relationship with somebody, um, you know, and all the way to, you know, people not taking their own life from an interaction that came from somebody giving them a bracelet, conversation that opened. So for me, I know that was a little bit deeper, but that's like my most cherished thing, I believe, is just what's came from that side of the business. But on a more 30,000 foot overview of everything, it's the people that I've met. You know, that's the people that I've met have absolutely changed my life. I actually tomorrow I'm about to be able to fly around the world for the next like 11 days with one of my clients, and then the guy who actually runs that company, now I'm connected with them, and it's just been beautiful from the people that I've connected with, the opportunities that have came from that. So definitely the people, as Sophia said in the very beginning, I always tell people the coolest thing about me is the people that I know. So definitely the impact and the people, because as we talked about earlier with the personal brand, no matter what business you start, no matter what business you're in, I've started and done different things all through the years since I built it. And because of the personal brand and my connections, it just helps the success right out of the gate because I have, you know, a support team of people. Understand the importance of being personal and real. How much transparent should one be? How personal is too personal? Yeah, I mean, on that, I think you have to gauge every conversation, right? Like some people, you know, in this setting, you don't have to listen to me, right? But I'm gonna just say whatever, right? You're asking deeper questions. I don't always go super deep with people, but to be honest, I don't think about that too much. You know, I think I'm pretty self-aware, but I really, yeah, you have to read the room on depth. I think it depends on, what they asked. I will share my whole story. I'll go as deep with people as they want to go. But I'm also really big on like, I'm not gonna walk around the room and teach people stuff. I'm not the guy that like talks to my phone. But if people ask me, I'll give you every ounce of knowledge that I have, every connection that I have, every skill that I have, every tactic that I'm using right now. I'll give it all to you if you ask. So I think just connecting with people on a real level, and you just kind of gauge it per person, right? Because some people they want to go deep and some people don't. And I think your kind of radar for that will sharpen always. But at the end of the day, I just say keep it as real as possible all the time. I grew up in a very country home too, where people like cuss all the time, and it's very like dirt and cowboy hats and boots and that whole thing. And but I still like I don't hold back from who I am when I talk to people, and I just be real. Some people don't like it, but people appreciate authenticity always. So I would make sure to not always just be a chameleon if you're in these rooms, because that'll start to stack up under the rug.
I love that. Yeah. I think it's good to have a balance, like you said. So maybe you don't share it all openly, but if someone asks, share. Or I know for me, there's certain boundaries, like I probably am not going to post about my family or things like that. Because you also want to be aware that it's now out in the digital space, or say if you grow, that information will always be there. So I think just being smart about it. Like I love sharing struggles about my business or my goals. So yeah, I think there's ways to do it while still protecting your personal life, but you have to choose like what you are willing to share for
Yeah,
sure.
it just depends on what you're building. That it just depends on what you're building. But just being real all the time. The deal is too, especially in the world we live in today, the media likes to make everybody think that we're all different, all separated, and they're trying to divide all the time. And it's like we're all so much more alike than we think, like on a really deep level. And so, whenever you're real and you're sharing, and as Angela said, authenticity is everything. Like being real, being authentic, as I mentioned earlier, being the same person on the internet as you are in person is really important. You'll be surprised how when you're just very real and straightforward, and it's just raw and honest, whether it makes you look good or not, you're raw about exactly where you are. You'll be surprised how many people will be surprised that you were honest about that and connect with you on a deep level. And now you have a deeper relationship with them than all the other salespeople or businesses or whoever, right? Depends on what the conversation is.
Yeah, I love that. Being honest for sure. Even on a business sense, I've had that too, where, some companies will just take the job and they'll be like, yes, I can do it when they
Mhm.
can't. And that's okay. Sometimes you have to start that way, but I'll always be honest, say, look, that's not where our expertise are. And I've actually had clients say like, wow, that's like really honest of you, but then they respect you and they want to work with you. So I agree, Braxton. I think just showing up honestly in all
Yeah.
situations.
I
Yeah.
will I will share a funny story of this. And I was only like 19 when this happened, so maybe I'm a little different now. But when I first started my agency, it was kind of by accident. I won't tell that whole story right now, but now I have a full production company, and I have camera gear and everything. I can't take a picture that's not blurry. But when I had my agency, I had this it was a logistics, like a trucking company. And in Texas that I was working with, and we built them a website, did some other things, and they were like, Braxton, we also need like a really high level commercial. Do you know somebody? And my response was like, oh well, I know we just did all this stuff for you. What you didn't know is that my main thing is production. That's like what I do. What you send me exactly what you're looking for, and I'll do that hand up. That's my main thing. It was not at all. But they sent me what they wanted. I went out and I went and interviewed and called, and I found the best person that I could find. We created him something absolutely incredible, blew it out of the water. They were pumped. Now, fast forward today, I have a full production agency. We do everything right. So again, you want to be raw and honest too, but also too, like in your business, like one of the big things I'll say, and I hope that doesn't contradict myself. There's moments where you don't want to say something that isn't true, but also too, like in this space, what I realized for me, even in all the things that I am really, really good at now, like in my businesses at this point, for me, I'm the connector. Like we built websites, we do production, we do all of these things. But now, like I'm not the best at any of them because I found people who are phenomenal humans who are masters their craft in this thing. So now I'm the person that everybody just comes to me to get the best work done, and then I distribute it within my teams. So at the end of the day, like when you talk to people on a sales call or whatever, same as I said earlier about asking, like, how can I help you? Like, what problems do you guys have? What's worked? What hasn't worked? Like, what can I do to serve you? When you figure out what the gap is, if you're the person that can make the right connections, you can get paid for that as well. So it all comes back to like really being, and I said that statement to them knowing I was going to make sure that what I said, that I got them something even better. So as long as you're really there to like serve at the highest level, you can be crazy and creative and do things like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So it's kind of like if you don't have the expertise, you could find someone who does. Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
really what entrepreneurship really is. It's finding people who are better than you at doing these expertise. So
Like
very
I said, I
true.
was like 19 when I did that. So I'm not trying to contradict my whole spiel there, but it's important to just be, like I said earlier, like gorilla, just like do what you have to do, like find people's problems and find a way to solve it. Like just be the one willing to be like, I'm gonna solve this problem for you. Don't even worry. You know?
Yeah.
And as long as you do that, it works, people appreciate it.
Love it. Wow. Well, I feel like that was really valuable. We shared so many tips. Thank you so much to everyone who's been asking questions and participating in the chat. You guys are awesome. So thank you so much, Braxton, for spending your morning with us and sharing
Absolutely.
all of your knowledge and insights and inspiration. Really appreciate it. And I know we'll be talking soon.
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody has any other questions too, feel free to DM me on Instagram. Like I said, I'm about to go pack my bags to be flying around the world for the next like 12 days. So I'm not gonna be taking as many calls. So I can definitely send some voice memos and DMs if anybody has other questions. But thank you for having me, Sophia. And I know I'm gonna talk to you next week anyway, but
Yes, definitely. And yes, definitely guys check out his website, hours.global. So they're a full service marketing firm. They do websites, production, really anything. And they also have companies that specialize in LinkedIn outreach. He mentioned his clothing brand, the I Believe in You bracelet, which I think we didn't go into the details, but it's super cool. So it's electronic, right? And then you can tap it and you get in the app, and then you can see the messages that the person before you left on the bracelet. So it's kind of this giving forward thing. So very cool product. I think that would make a great Christmas gift, even, which is coming up. So thank you so
yeah,
much again, Braxton.
yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. Oh, and safe
You
travels.
too. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.